If you only do the things that you're supposed to do to succeed, you may succeed. But if you avoid doing the things that lead to failure, then you're actually much more likely to succeed. In this video, I'm going to talk about 5 things that I did, 5 things that I've experienced that literally caused my relationships to be destroyed, whether it was friendships, family, or the marriage that didn't work out for me. So let's get right into it. Hey, my name is Kamga. Welcome to this conversation about 5 things that I did to destroy my relationships. Now, I don't mean that I actually did these things and destroy my relationship by myself. If you understand the context, I'm looking at taking responsibility for the parts of the relationship that did not work out because of my doing. And the reason why this happens, I think it happens to most people, and if you're like me, is when things don't work out, you think about, what happened, what went wrong, what could I have done differently? I tend to think a lot. I tend to overthink, which is actually one of the things we're going to see here. One of those gifts of introspection is that you can see patterns of behavior. And hopefully, by the end of this video, you'll be able to see the 5 things that you probably want to stop doing before you destroy the next relationship or the current relationship in which you are. Let's start straight with number 1, overthinking. Overthinking is something that I do a lot, figuring out how things work, playing conversations in my mind, having all these ideas. However, there's a point beyond which those ideas and those hypotheses of what somebody is doing become dangerous. For example, somebody comes late for a dinner or for a party, and instead of just taking what they say at face value, which is, hey, I was stuck in traffic. Now you start overthinking. Are they cheating on me? Are they talking to somebody else? Do they mean something else? Should I be doing something else? Is that all the answer there is? Overthinking can lead to you imagining scenarios that don't exist. And because those scenarios are in your mind, you start exhibiting the signs of someone who's actually already experienced those scenarios. You have to remember that your imagination is very powerful. If you start imagining that something is wrong and think about it strongly enough, you will find a way to make it wrong. So overthinking is one of those ways where a friend can tell you something and they really mean what they said, but you start thinking to yourself, I don't trust this guy. I don't think he likes me like that. I don't think he trusts me like that. I don't think I should listen to him. And this is all going on in your head. But you think it's only in your head, but you don't realize that by thinking about those things and overthinking them and adding so much weight to something that should not have the weight that you're giving it to, then you find yourself acting in weird ways that eventually end up destroying those relationships. Number 2, oversharing. Oversharing is one of those things that I found myself doing because in previous relationships, I realized that I wasn't sharing enough. I wasn't talking enough about what I was feeling, what I wanted, what I was expecting. I did not communicate effectively. And so what I did, I left from someone who couldn't talk well in relationships to someone who talks too much. And the problem with that is this: when you overshare, there is no room for discovery. There's no room for exploration. The other person receives this deluge of information and then they have to filter it out. They have to find out, okay, he said this thing this time and this is what I think, but there is no room for them to discover you. And this doesn't only apply to relationships leading to marriage. Also in friendships, imagine you meet somebody for the very first time and you're talking about the things that you care about and they're telling you what they like, their favorite color, their favorite team, the time that their team lost, where they grew up, their parents. You get overwhelmed by all this information. I just met you, bro. I don't know you like that. Now, this could have been a great friendship that built over time where you find out, 3 years later that they speak 2 languages, or 6 months down the road that they're really good at soccer. There's so many things that you could do by simply just sharing what is necessary at the time or giving information that leads to connection. Oversharing is something that you probably don't want to do, especially in the early stages of a relationship of any kind, and only share when it's necessary. Number 3, expecting similar or the same standards. You might have heard of these things of somebody saying, he thinks we're friends, but I don't. What happens usually is that we have different understandings of the idea of friendship or relationships, and someone may see you as an acquaintance, whereas you see them as a friend. They might treat you like an acquaintance when you treat them like a friend. You might trust them with all these thoughts and beliefs and all these ideas and probably even pray for them, which is a good thing to do if you're a Christian. But they may not see you that way. They may not expect you to show up for them the way you expect them to show up for you. There have been many times where I have thought that someone and I had a similar relationship where the same level where I could trust them with certain things or expect certain things from them. And what happens is that they get to disappoint you for an ideal that you had in your mind. I was sitting here thinking, oh, I thought we were friends. I thought if I called you and asked for money, you'd be able to give it to me without doing all this grilling of why I need the money and how I need to have asked you 2 weeks before. And money is not the reason why you can call a friend. But the idea here is this: if you don't have the same standards in a relationship and you have not made those clear, whether by communication or sharing your values or just finding out that you actually believe in the same things and you expect similar things, then you shouldn't assume that they're on the same level. So one way this could lead to failure is that you would assume that someone will show up for you at the time that you need them, and they don't. And soon enough, you find yourself getting upset, getting sad because they didn't do the thing that you were expecting them to do. Number 4, no clear vision. Now, this one is one that I noticed in romantic relationships, especially as a man. If you don't have a vision of where your relationship is going, even for friendships, even if it's an unspoken vision, that's one thing that I made a huge mistake on. I did not really understand this when I got married when I was in my late 20s is a vision doesn't necessarily have to be very clear. And I say here no clear visions because you need to have a direction. You need to have somewhere where you're going. If you don't know where you're going with somebody in a romantic relationship, then why should they be there in the first place? And even when it comes to friendships, if you don't know why you want to be friends with somebody, then are you just trying to make friends with everybody? What does that say? If you are just cordial with everyone and you interact with everybody, then it means you don't stand for anything. And the underlying theme here is that if you don't know your personal values and your personal vision for your life, then you cannot set the vision for a relationship, and you cannot set the values by which you decide if someone is someone that is worth pursuing in a relationship or in a friendship. So you need to have a clear vision of what this friendship is going to be like, or what this relationship is going to be like, and you have to be able to communicate that. Number 5, which is one that I think is probably the most important one on this list, not relying on God. I recently got saved. I say recently, depending on when you watch this video, it could be like 10 years ago, I don't know. But I recently got saved, and one thing that I noticed is that in my life, I did not really put God in a lot of things. I thought I was a Christian. I pursued life as a Christian in my mind, but practically speaking, on a day-to-day basis, on an actual practical way of using and putting Christ first, I wasn't doing that. Whether it was my relationships, my friendships, relationship with siblings and family, I did not really put God first. I did not pray about the things I wanted to do. I did not listen to what God wanted me to do. And I noticed that without this foundation of God, a lot of things go wrong. That is my personal take on this, because I think that we tend to want to live as though we have all the power, but I believe in God, I believe in Christ, and I believe that He's beyond weird thoughts and ideas and ideals about how relationships should work or how they shouldn't work. And if we put Him first, if we try to follow Him with all our lives, then a lot of things just simply work out. So just to recap this, how do you solve the overthinking problem? 1, stay grounded. I know it's easy to say, not easy to actually practice in real time, but you need to be able to focus on what is being said, focus on the present. Meditation helps with that. Paying attention to what somebody's saying helps with that. Listening, not just to respond, but to actually understand what the person's saying. Asking clarifying questions so they can say more about what we're thinking about. That's one way to stay grounded and to avoid overthinking. Oversharing. Try to only speak when it's necessary. And it goes back to the whole listening thing. When you're doing active listening, when you're paying attention to what somebody's saying, then you can know what they need to know. And then you can expand when it's necessary to bring them into the conversation, to connect with them, to relate with them. You're not just saying things because you want to pour out all this information because you want them to know who you are, but you want to be able to connect with them. You want to be able to share an anecdote, share a story that lets them know, hey, I see you, I understand your pain, I understand your joy, we are from the same place, we have the same values. Those stories that you will share will be picked based on what you're trying to accomplish at that particular point. So you won't be oversharing. You'll be sharing as adequately as necessary. Number 3, in order to find out about your standards, if you have similar standards, then you have to still listen. It still boils down to listening, paying attention to what they are saying. How did you guys first meet? What do they like about what? How is their view on money, on relationships, on faith, on sports, on the news, on politics? When you listen, then you can establish by yourself, without them even telling you what their values and standards are, whether you are at the same levels. And then you stop expecting them to have standards without you actually having evidence of that. When it comes to number 4, the problem of not having a clear vision, once you establish your values, establish your personal vision, your personal direction in life, it becomes a lot more easier to be able to know if someone is going to be somebody who's going to help you on that journey, or someone that you just need to be helping out, because you're either ahead of someone at the same level as them or behind them. And depending on where they are on that journey, you can know is this a mentor I need to actually listen to? Is this a mentee I need to assist? Is this someone at the same level as me, so that we can now be accountable? We can actually work together like iron sharpening iron. So knowing which stage you are on, knowing your values, knowing your vision, can allow you to know if this is the kind of person that you want to have on your team. And then finally, by putting God above everything else, all those other things start making sense. You'll be able to actually understand if this person is necessary for your journey, which direction you should take, and how to even approach them. There are people I know of a story of a friend who saw someone and wanted to be friends with this person, and they basically pursued this friendship the way you pursue a relationship or a romantic relationship. They pursued this friendship, and today they're actually very good friends. So when you put God in front of everything, He will move you to places and to do things that you would not normally do by your own strength. And I strongly believe that if all these 5 points, that is the one point that sets the foundation for everything else. If you enjoyed watching this video, thank you. Leave a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. Here's a video that I made a while ago about something, and here's a playlist that you can actually enjoy. In the meantime, I'll see you in the next video. God bless you.